Hey, grade nines, welcome to this class, this online class. Today I'm going to be covering meiosis. We're going to carry on from mitosis, which we covered in the previous video, and now we're going to explore a brand new topic, that is meiosis. So let's begin. First off, the shape of the day or shape of the lesson, we're going to start off with a little comparison table to compare mitosis and meiosis, followed by a little lesson on what is meiosis, why does meiosis occur, what are the end products of meiosis, and finally we're going to do a whiteboard activity. It's going to be the same style as the previous video where I'll have you drawing along with me. So let's get underway. Just as a little recap, we talked about mitosis, how it's the process by which the cell divides. Mitosis occurs when cells want to divide and they want to create two similar cells, two identical cells. And there's different phases: prophase, metaphase, anaphase, and telophase. These were the 4 stages of mitosis, which once again you can find in the previous video. Now let's just do a little comparison by looking at visual images. So in mitosis, you can see that big cell, it has 4 chromosomes that are replicated, and when that cell divides, it produces 2 identical cells that were the same as the parent cell. So that's what mitosis is. It's when one cell creates 2 identical copies. Now meiosis, it's a little different. Meiosis occurs in specific cells called germ cells, and the purpose of meiosis, as you can see in the image, is to create cells that have half the number of chromosomes. And you might ask, why? Why would we want cells with half the number of chromosomes? Well, the answer is, it's for reproduction. These cells that have half the number of chromosomes, they're the sperm and the egg cells. And that's what humans and a lot of organisms use to reproduce. To compare the two in a little table, in mitosis, we talked about how the purpose is for cellular proliferation. The purpose of mitosis is to produce identical cells. There's 4 stages: prophase, metaphase, anaphase, telophase, and they occur in somatic cells. Somatic cells are those cells that produce diploid or identical copies of the same cell. And the byproduct or the end product of mitosis is 2 diploid daughter cells. And finally, the chromosome numbers remain the same. Once mitosis occurs, the chromosome numbers, they are not changed. And mitosis also results in no change in the genetic variation. The cells that are made, they are identical. It has the same genes, the same genetic variation. Now, in contrast, meiosis, the purpose is for sexual reproduction. The purpose of meiosis is to create these egg and sperm cells. There are 8 stages in total, compared to 4. And meiosis occurs in germ cells. Germ cells are those cells that produce haploid cells. And haploid cells are cells with half the number of chromosomes. So it produces 4 haploid daughter cells. The chromosome number is halved in meiosis, and we're gonna explain this a little further on into the lesson. And finally, genetic variation is increased. In meiosis, we get increased genetic variation due to events such as crossing over. First off, the stages of meiosis. So just like in mitosis, how there's prophase, metaphase, anaphase, and telophase, in meiosis, it's the same names. It's prophase 1, and then metaphase 1, anaphase 1, telophase 1. So in prophase 1, the nuclear membrane breaks. It's the same as prophase and mitosis. What's different in meiosis and mitosis is metaphase 1. In metaphase 1, the homologous chromosomes line at the middle of the cell, not the sister chromatids. In anaphase 1, the homologous chromosomes, both sister chromatids, are pulled apart. So in mitosis, the sister chromatids were pulled apart like this. But in meiosis, they're pulled apart in pairs. It's kind of, yeah. And finally, telophase 1, the nuclear membrane forms again. That's meiosis 1. That's the first half of meiosis. And we're going to, once again, we're going to cover this in our whiteboard activity later on. And then meiosis 2. These stages are the exact same as mitosis, so we will not go into them in detail. The definitions of prophase 2, metaphase 2, anaphase 2, and telophase 2, they're the exact same definitions as mitosis. The nuclear membrane breaks in prophase 2, and then in metaphase 2, the sister chromatids line this time, and the sister chromatids are pulled apart in anaphase, and finally in telophase 2, the nuclear membranes form. The nuclear membrane forms. So in meiosis, there's 8 stages in total, PMAT1 and then PMAT2. Now let's just do a little whiteboard activity to better explain these concepts. So I'm just gonna share my screen real quick. So we're gonna share a different screen, which is this one. So once again, the diagram structure is very similar in the mitosis video. If you have not seen the mitosis video, I suggest you see that first just to refresh your memory. So in meiosis, let's start off by looking at 4 chromosomes. We are going to look at a big blue one, a big blue chromosome, a small blue chromosome, a big red chromosome, and then a small red chromosome. And I'm just gonna make the blue one a little smaller. So we're gonna have a small blue chromosome. There you go. In prophase 1, the sister chromatids, the chromosomes replicate to produce sister chromatids, and the nuclear membrane breaks down. Once again, that blue circle in these diagrams, that's a cell. The green circle is the nuclear membrane. And the yellow dots, those are the centrioles that play a role in meiosis. So in prophase 1, we have the sister chromatids. The chromosomes replicate into sister chromatids. So they produce an X-like manner. We have a big blue one, a small blue one, a big red one, and a small red one. So our chromosomes, our 4 chromosomes, have replicated into sister chromatids. Next up, metaphase. So this is where the trick comes. This is what gets a lot of people confused. In metaphase 1, when we're looking at meiosis, the homologous chromosomes line up. So the big blue one, let's just put it there. And the big red one, because they're both big, you got one from your father and one from your mother. They line up together like that. And the small ones line up together as well. So for now, I'm just going to put the small blue one here and the small red one here. The order of where you put the chromosomes doesn't really matter because in the end, they mix up anyways. But for now, for simplification purposes, I'm just going to try it like this. In anaphase 1, the entire chromosome, both sister chromatids, get pulled. So we're going to draw the big blue one we draw it in a V shape. You don't have to. The big blue one and the small blue one. And then the big red one and the small red one. And once again, they're getting pulled to opposite ends of the cell by the centriole. These centrioles attach to the centromere of the chromosomes and they pull them, the microtubules of the centriole, it pulls these chromosomes to opposite ends of the cell. And finally, in telophase 1, the nuclear membrane starts to form again. That's where that green dotted line comes in. And I'm just going to redraw the chromosomes as well. So we have the big blue one, the small blue one, and we have the big red one and the small red one. That's meiosis 1. And after telophase 1 occurs, the cell breaks up into 2 daughter cells. So we're going to now move here. We're going to look here now. So after telophase 1, the daughter cell, let's just say higher up, it had a big blue chromosome and it had a small red one. And same thing the cell on the bottom, it had a small blue chromosome and a big red chromosome. So it's a small blue and a big red one. So these daughter cells, they're going to enter prophase 2. In prophase 2, the nuclear membrane breaks down. That's why there's no more green circle. And we're going to have the big blue one here. We're going to have the small blue one here. And we're going to have the small red chromosome here and the big red chromosome there. So we're just following the chromosomes as they go through the different stages of meiosis. In metaphase 2, now the sister chromatids line up, just like mitosis. So now you'd have the blue one here, the big blue one there, and you have the small red one right beside it, and the big red one would be here with the small blue one. Once again, I'm only drawing 4 chromosomes just to simplify things. Humans would have 46 chromosomes, and that's just way too much to draw. But if you could follow these steps with 4 chromosomes, you could do the exact same thing with 46. It's the same idea. So in anaphase 2 now, the sister chromatids, they pull apart. So the big blue one would come up there, the big blue one would go down there, and the small red chromosome would also split apart. Once again, what's pulling them apart? It's the centrioles that are pulling them like a tug-of-war, essentially. And on the bottom cell, we have the small blue chromosome also being pulled apart and the big red chromosome also being pulled apart. Once again, I draw it in a V shape because the centriole, it attaches to the middle of the chromosome. So it's just imagine pulling a string from the middle. The ends would go upwards and the middle would go towards the centriole. And finally, in telophase now, we have a big blue chromosome up here, a big blue chromosome down here, and the small chromosomes as well. And the same thing for the red one, the big red one here, and the small blue one here. And finally, after telophase 2, after the nuclear membrane forms, after cytokinesis occurs and the cytoplasm divides, we get 4 daughter cells. So I'll just draw out the 4 daughter cells. We have the 2 big blue chromosomes and the 2 small red ones, and then the 2 big red ones and the 2 small blue ones. Now, if you notice, these 4 daughter cells, they only have 2 chromosomes each. And if we compare this to the parent in interphase, if we compare it to the original parent, which I've just made a purple square around, that parent had 4 chromosomes. So through meiosis, you produce 4 daughter cells that have half the number of chromosomes, and those 4 daughter cells are often eggs and sperm, which ultimately fuse together. And I'll talk about sexual reproduction in my next video. So here you have it. This is meiosis in a nutshell. Hopefully from this video, you were able to understand the process of meiosis, the different stages, and just going back to my slides right here, we're going to end off with the current slide. So just going back to the slides. To end off this video, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for watching. Once again, if you have any questions, you can comment below. Hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you.